Hello YouTubers, today's video is a look at my RV rear bumper upgrades. Okay YouTubers, what I'm doing is I'm putting on, it's called Quick Products. It's a bumper support. Now it had a little adapter in case you have a smaller bumper than what this fits around. And I found I had to use the carriage bolts that it came with as well as the nylon lock nuts, but I combined it with washers on each side, 1/4 inch washers, and that made it easier to attach. I basically just put it into a vise so I held it together. Put my first carriage bolt through with a washer, tightened it on the other side, flipped it over, and then did the other one. Now they also supply the fasteners to mount it to your framework. They said it came with the 2 drill bits, however mine didn't. One of them is a 5/16 and the other one is a 17/64. The 17/64 is the larger of the two, and you only use that to start your pilot. And what I ended up doing is, the way it fit onto my frame, these were already pre-drilled. This one and this one would fit, but this one dropped below. So I had to tap out this one, and I used a 5/64 to tap it out, and then I ran my pilot through, or my drill through, with my 5/60 or 5/16. The other thing I did is to set in order to set my brace onto the frame and hold it while I did my tapping screws or tapping holes, I used a small Irwin clamp. That held it in place so I can just tap in my holes. Okay, now this is the finished product. 3 screws. Those are self-tapping that went into the frame, and then the support wraps around, and I've got 2 carriage bolts with the extension. Those two combined gives you about an added 400 pounds of weight capabilities on that back bumper. Hey YouTubers, I was going to show you a little bit more abbreviated version, but I just couldn't do that to you. But I want to give you a peek at my new bike rack, manufactured by Lead Racks. It's actually designed to hold 3 bikes, and I wanted something that was a little bit more secure and easier to use than what this Quick Products one was. The problem I had with this is that I just couldn't get both bikes on it to fit where the tires would go on each side, so just wasn't totally happy with it. This one seemed to work out pretty good. What I had to do for it was I had to get a receiver to mount on my bumper, and so that was pretty easy to do, getting it through Amazon, and I will show you or list the links to it in the comment section. But anyway, this seemed to work out pretty good. It's got 3 mounts for it, and these mounts are movable. They just slide back and forth, and they will rotate, which seems to have worked quite well. Right now I've just got it set, so I use the 2 outer ones. I'll put my Bycycle on the inside one, or the one closer to the window, and then I put Maryland's on the outside and use these as spacers. They've got some pretty strong straps which fit right into these pegs, and I find that in order to get them to strap properly, I use a pair of pliers, and that gives it a good grip on it. Now, It does have these cotter pins here, these pins here that you can pull out, and that'll allow this to drop down. See if I can get this for you. Okay, so you can drop it down like so. And then you can put the pin back in, which is tethered to the rack, and that will lock it in place when you're not carrying bikes. And that does happen with us from time to time. If we go on a short trip, we usually leave the bikes at home. So, and then to put it back in place, you just simply raise it back up and mount the pin. The one thing I've noticed is this attaches there. This bottom one, and that drops it down, so it's probably at about a 30-degree angle, but I don't know how I'm going to use that. If I do figure it out later on, I'll let you know. I suppose it's to make it a little bit easier for you to put the bikes on and take them off, but at this time I just prefer just to lift them up and mount them onto the rack. Also, I found that getting that pin in, I had to hone out the inner part of the rack, or this part where the holes are through, because the pin wouldn't quite line up. But just a little metal drill, they'll work on that. I kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and now the pin will slide in and out. I didn't show the assembly because there's nothing to it. All you do, you have your L section that goes into your receiver. You simply put this part of your rack in, run the bolt through, put your pin in, and then you put your top part of the rack in and put 2 bolts in, tighten it down, and then just slip it into your receiver. And they give you a bolt, but you can also put a regular hitch pin into it, and that secures it. Now, since it will rattle, you do have this little stabilizer piece that comes with it, and you simply just put your U-bolt through it, snug it down a little bit, slip it over this, and then tighten it, and that'll hold it steady so it doesn't jiggle around. Other than that, it's very easy to use, or very easy to mount. And again, because I'm carrying this rack with the 2 bikes and my spare tire, I put on these braces or supports that I mounted onto the frame to wrap around my bumper. That gives me an added 400 pounds strength. So just from the jiggling and the bouncing around of the rack, it won't crack those welds. And again, I wrap this down and I mounted it to the frame on both sides, and that shows you what it looks like there. Didn't take very long. Took me a little bit extra time just to get it in there and to make sure it matched up with the frame. Now, the one thing I'm going to end up doing, and I'll show you after I put the bicycles back on the rack, that I've ordered some Velcro straps. Now, when I mounted my bike, I went ahead and wrapped a strap around the top here, and I had to use a pair of pliers just to stretch it around. You get a second one of these, or a spare one of these, by the way. But I wrapped that around and hooked it on that side, and then I've got double bars on the bottom, so I just wrapped it around the one on the outside or my left side and cinched that up. And then, as I said, these slide back and forth, so that just kind of got me straight and level. What I'm going to have to do with this bike is I've got some Velcro straps and on order, and when get them, to keep this from flopping around, I'm going to take and tie back to this lower part of the frame to keep it from flopping around. Then I push the bike back as far as I could possibly get it. Now when carrying a girl's bike, you have to buy a second attachment, and that would be this bar, which is spring loaded, that you just hook around the bottom of the seat, you know, on the post, stretch it out, and then put the pin through, and that locks it into place. That gives us something to bite onto. Now here I've got Marilyn's bike mounted on here as well. You'll find you might have to rotate these mounts forward or back, especially when you're trying to put the strap over it, because if the strap lines up with the bar, you're not going to get it hooked up. So I've kind of moved it forward, and then I could stretch my strap over and hook it on my little post. These are quite malleable, so you can move these around a little bit, and they can get a little bit larger, a little bit narrower, whatever you have to do. Now, my biggest complaint on this is, as you can see, I'm going to have to tighten up both these wheels because they move around. The other thing is there's actually no stability for the bottom. So like I said, I've ordered some Velcro strips, which I'm going to secure the front tires. Then I'm also going to secure the two bikes to this post, and that'll keep it from flopping around, because I want to make it as solid as possible. And I don't know if anybody else has done it, but basically what I do is I loosen up my handlebars and turn them so they're totally parallel with the rest of the bike and the front tire, instead of going diagonally across it. But I'll probably end up giving you a review of the rack after I've taken the trip down to Florida and back. So probably anticipate that sometime, I would say January, February, I'll be doing a review. I hope you enjoyed this look at my rear bumper upgrades, and if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and most of all, thanks for watching.